Hello again and welcome to Pearl Magazine. Hong Kong's 2024 budget is out. Is it enough to help turn things around for the economy and its citizens who are still finding it difficult to get back to a more positive pre-pandemic fiscal environment? I spoke to Gary Ng, senior economist at Natixis, and John Timpany, head of tax at KPMG, to get their thoughts on what might help give the city the boost it needs.
We decide to cancel all demand-side management measures for residential properties with immediate effect. That is, no SSD, BSD, or NRSD needs to be paid for any residential property transactions starting from today.
Financial Secretary Paul Chan hopes that removing all restrictions will boost the economy, as well as the city's shrinking fiscal reserves, which currently stand at about $730 billion. In addition to this, fresh funding of $1.1 billion has been earmarked to stimulate tourism, while salary and profit taxes have been reduced to ease the financial burden on the public and small and medium-sized enterprises. But income tax on people making more than $5 million a year will be raised to 16% to lift the government's coffers. With the city's deficit forecast to balloon to $101.6 billion, consumption vouchers have been ditched with a more targeted approach to investing in technology and AI, such as $2 billion to establish a health tech hub, $3 billion allocated to Cyberport, to support local universities and research institutes, as well as $100 million for digital courses for those over 60 years of age. Chan added that government departments would have to cut expenses by 1% for the next 2 years. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, John, for joining me on this discussion about the budget. Gary, first of all, what are some of the challenges you think the government faces when it comes to the budget this year?
Well, I think if we look at what happened to Hong Kong in the past 5 years, right, it is really about the question on how the government can actually revert the fiscal deficit, which hasn't really been the case before. So I think this is definitely one of the biggest challenges that the government will face in terms of how to balance the increasing spending demand versus the deteriorating fiscal condition. But of course, beyond that, we also have a question about, where does the growth momentum of Hong Kong comes from, especially as it has been kind of frozen for a few years. We see competitors actually investing for the future, while Hong Kong in the past has spent the resources in a relatively short-term focus.
This is the first time I can think of that the government has faced a kind of deficit in its budget. How difficult is it for the government to decide where to allocate resources? And is this something you think maybe the government has to get used to?
I think this is indeed an increasingly difficult question, especially on the one hand, if we look at some structural problems, right? The aging population in Hong Kong is getting more severe. By 2050, actually 41% of the population will be classified as elderly population. Right now it's a number close to 20%. So there will be growing demand for more spending. Then the government will need to find more sources of revenue.
With the Hong Kong government's books is we still have significant reserves, over 700 billion reserves likely this year, which if I compare that to other jurisdictions, I think most governments would kill to have that sort of fiscal firepower still in the bank after half a decade of difficult times. Now we have a structural deficit driven by the fact that land sales, stamp duties, because of market conditions are well down. Because we still have quite a number of years where we could run deficits and the government would not have to go into a net debt situation. And I compare that to most of the rest of the world, and you think, wow, how lucky is the Hong Kong government to at least have these options.
What are some of the moves you think the government could do to turn its economy around and boost its reserves?
700 billion is a lot of money. We can't just rely on the government to do everything. The government creates a framework, provides a platform, but it's actually up to the businesses of Hong Kong to boost the economy. And that's about confidence in the future of Hong Kong and its role in the world. If you look at the 14th five-year plan, it's very clear Hong Kong has a role beyond just that China connection. We need to get out, connect to the Middle East and elsewhere, and that will create more business opportunities, I think.
Right now, Singapore seems to be beating us for regional headquarters. Is there something that we could do to draw them back?
They've got a regional headquarters incentive, they've got a global trader incentive. We should look at the same thing. Can we get a half tax rate to encourage businesses to set up either a regional or even global headquarters in Hong Kong?
Does Hong Kong risk being seen less as an international business hub and more as a China business hub if they don't spread out more globally? If
we look at the past 30 or even 40 years, Hong Kong's growth has always been bank of the fast growth path of China. But of course, in the future, there will be opportunities from the faster growing India or ASEAN, etc. I think it's a natural choice for Hong Kong to diversify. And it seems to me that it's quite hard to completely detach the DNA of a very China-focused market, because at the end of the day, the location is right next to China.
I don't see it as a choice between the two. I see it as we have a strength as part of China, we have a strength as part of the Greater Bay and all the initiatives that are there, and we need to build that international finance centre and maintain it as an important part of what we do. When I talk to Chinese clients, the reason they come to Hong Kong is because we have that international exposure, that international experience. The capital controls aren't here, the freedom of information, the legal system, all of those things are attractive to mainland companies as well as international companies.
Is there anything we can do in terms of the tax system that might make Hong Kong more attractive to multinationals?
Pillar 2, BEPS 2.0, which is this OECD-driven tax thing that basically says, look, all big companies should pay 15% tax wherever they're operating. So what does that mean is, of course, is offering a very low tax rate for large companies may not be that attractive. I think looking at the Singapore budget that came out last week, they are starting to rejig their incentives to make sure that they can still attract those larger businesses. So I think Hong Kong needs to keep a very careful eye on what our competitors are doing. Hong Kong is a low tax jurisdiction, and it has been targeted through this as one of the tax havens. So now we need to make sure that our system is fit for purpose.
Singapore seems to be investing in training people in, developing education. Do you think that Hong Kong needs to look at this as well?
So I think this is actually a worthy investment that the government should do. I wouldn't be against, a further tax allowance for people who actually decide that they want to further educate themselves in different university or skills program. This is actually what the Singapore is trying to do, at the same time of giving subsidies to these courses, etc. So I think this is definitely something that the government should proceed.
Does that play into sentiment that Hong Kong people feel that there is a future for them in the city?
I think this is definitely true, because how they perceive the future. Then, of course, healthcare, welfare, and also education are really the key that people would look at to see whether they want to stay in Hong Kong.
What else can Hong Kong do to kind of step into the future when it comes to technology?
Well, of course, the first and foremost must be education in terms of building this whole ecosystem that the society will be more focused on tech-driven solution and this sort of the sector implication. I think this is one of the biggest challenge, but also an opportunity for Hong Kong to actually move away from the strong reliance on, for example, finance and especially real estate as we see right now.
I mean, if the government really digitizes the way we interact with them, it creates that, I think, halo effect around the whole digital agenda. And I think that will create huge opportunities for young, innovative companies to come up with ideas and find new solutions to various problems. And then once that ball starts rolling, I think we'll see a lot of development, the fintech, prop tech, all of these type of things will really get going.
What are the top 3 must-haves that you think the government should really prioritize in this budget?
Well, I think the first and the most important point is really about the growth momentum of Hong Kong in terms of how to attract businesses back to Hong Kong or find new growth sources. There should still be a certain support to consumers given the still elevated living costs in many aspects. And lastly, I totally agree with the point of diversification and also the digital economy.
So from me, first thing is don't panic. I think I'm getting a flavour of people are very worried about the deficit. We don't need short-term, harsh revenue-raising measures or significant cost savings. Government should always look and be efficient in terms of its resources and make sure that money's being well spent. But I don't think we have to slash and burn, good policies that support the future of Hong Kong. There are certain targeted measures we should take to support people with an ongoing cost of living concerns. So some support measures for people during this difficult time. And then finally, I think we need to take a step back and look at our tax system in the context of a wider strategic review. And in that regard, I would encourage the government to really set up a proper tax policy unit to make sure we're thinking about things holistically. What revenue do we need in the long run? Where is that revenue going to come from? Have we got the right sources of revenue?
Thank you, John. Thank you, Gary. When we come back, some millennials and Gen Ys opt to become influencers or KOLs, but find it difficult to become successful. Stay with us. Welcome back to Pearl Magazine. Millennials and Gen Ys are opting to be influencers or KOLs rather than taking traditional jobs because they say they enjoy the flexibility of the work hours and the nature of the work. But not all KOLs find success. Some have decided to quit because of keen competition, while others continue to work harder to try to get through the challenges. Alice Khan reports.
Hello， 大家好，歡迎收睇咧。sorry 嚟一次，我掠咗。Hello， 大家好歡迎收睇呢個可能係最後一集㗎。
喂，其實點解最尾嘅你？
可能係最尾。
你有啲咩隱疾啊？
唔係啊，唔夠時間用啊。
The guy on the right is Kibi. He began his KOL job 11 years ago. He partnered with his good friend Kong, but later on Kong quit. He is now focusing on his family's bakery business. Occasionally, Kong will turn up to film some cake making with Kibi. They have amassed many followers.
I've been following Kibi for a long time, over 10 years. He has brought us a lot of happiness. So I give a like to his videos.
I was very active between the years 2012, 2016 and 2017. When I would walk down the street, people would ask me to take photos with them, probably more than 10, 20 people. In the past, it was not as difficult to get viewers as it is now. It was easy to achieve a viewership of 100,000 plus to 200,000. In the heydays, I had 500,000 to 600,000 viewers. It's true that viewership is declining. Then you have to think about some new strategies.
In the past, the viewership of Kibi's videos was high. It brought him an enormous amount of income. At its peak, it reached a 6- to 7-figure income. But it went all the way down to a few $1,000s or $10,000 at most. Now he works with new partners, Chi and Derek, to produce short films to attract viewers, but it isn't easy.
我想一路係你係向後行咁，一路我同佢有 chat chat 入到嚟呢度。本身 Kibi 嘅人咧就
Kibi is very persistent. Me too. But we need to deal with the pressure of renting. Everyone in Hong Kong is aware of this problem. We need to purchase equipment. Then we won't have enough money to pay the rent after purchasing the equipment. It is depressing. From the aspect of income and the working hours, this kind of job is not desirable.
It is to do with the algorithm system. To compete for viewers, you speed up the publication. You publish one video a week, then 2 videos a week. But you can't produce a quality video in such a short time.
咁我哋今集請到 Larry， 佢嘅 YouTube channel《軍武戲員》咧，我已經睇咗。
Ming has been working as a KOL for 13 years. First, he filmed and uploaded videos of his European tour on a social media platform. He became very popular. His viewers reached the tens of thousands. However, his popularity dropped drastically when his live stream went pear-shaped 4 years ago.
I was backstabbed by everyone. It took a long time to build up tens of thousands of subscribers. I lost tens of thousands of subscribers in 1 week. I believe I was the first KOL who had such a bad experience. It seems what I have done, what I have said was wrong. I have never experienced this in my life. The only thing I could do was shut my mouth. That was the way to cut losses.
During that time, Ming realized there were plenty of social commentary videos. So he decided to change his strategy. Ming took 2 years to learn editing and graphic design. He also set up 3 language channels offering Putonghua, Cantonese, and English, focusing on current affairs.
I uploaded one video for 1 week, but view counts didn't exceed 10,000. I never had such a low record in 13 years. Then I asked myself, are you wasting your time?
He couldn't manage 3 language channels, so he decided to switch back to his previous channel, offering content of social and political commentary. 1 year later, his videos have drawn attention again. Ming hopes he can produce good quality work.
Some audience members left comments saying I like this kind of topic. I was so happy. I almost ran up to the rooftop to scream. You have to go out of your comfort zone, then you can grow. I changed the strategy because of fear of being eliminated. Also, nothing's forever. Actually, I always think you'll be eliminated tomorrow. View count like messages. Subscriptions are variables to measure your success. Every decision may involve a trade-off. You will pay the price for making mistakes. If I didn't make mistakes, I wouldn't know how to find the right direction.
People say YouTubers sell themselves, showing your daily life. You can say that. It is a pain for YouTubers to find a story idea. That's why we use our daily life as a topic. We work and play. We film after having fun.
It isn't easy climbing from lows to highs in the internet world. To maintain his viewership, Kibi also changed his strategy. He focused on daily life issues instead of short movies. Today, he's invited his friend, a Japanese actor and KOL, Izumi Soko, to make a video about boxing.
Kibi's on this level, I'm on this level. We're doing crossover. The audience can watch it in my channel and also in Kibi's channel. We work together to grow our fans together.
These are gifts from my fans. I cherish them. My fans gave them to me, so I collect them.
Although Kibi changed his strategy, he wasn't able to attract more viewers. 1 year later, he quit his KOL career.
Look at the whole YouTuber industry. Probably only a handful of KOLs can entirely rely on this job to survive. The competition is so keen. At this moment, my heart sinks. My life is at the bottom. I have been holding on to it. Actually, I feel I'm now at the bottom. I don't produce films fast enough, my exposure is getting lower and lower, view count is decreasing. I am thinking whether I should keep pursuing this career. At the moment, I don't see that I have a second chance to go back to the peak or to regain my popularity again. To be honest, I don't know whether I will do KOL again. I'm not young, I don't have much time to waste.
拜拜明兔，拜拜電路，拜拜小二，拜拜 Louis。拜拜啦，收台啦，我哋再講，翻去再打機，我再睇下啦。
I'm so thirsty. I'm now going to get something to drink. I've talked for 2.5 hours. I think doing live streaming and filming isn't a waste of time. At least I'm happy.
Despite the industry being competitive, some KOLs believe they can persevere and get through the hard times.
If the audience watched the live show because of me, then I achieved my goal. Even if I play games till I drop, it is my honor.
I do hope to achieve my goal. That's to continue to spread the news of the world's issues to more people.
I have never experienced life at university. I feel regret not going to university. With more education, I would have more options if I fail in one area.
My aim is to achieve 100,000 subscribers. To me, it's like a silver award, which proves my efforts.
That's our show for this week. Join us on Pearl Magazine, same time next week. Bye for now.